I get it when you're standing in the garage, staring at a pile of scrap metal, and a budget that's already stretched thin. The idea of adding a plasma cutter feels like a gamble. You've probably seen a few videos promising instant cuts and studio-grade precision, but you're also wondering whether you'll end up with a pricey toy that sputters on the first 30mm piece. That hesitation is real, especially when the wrong machine can chew through your wallet faster than it can cut steel. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So let's break it down the way a friend would if you were about to drop cash on a 100-amp plasma cutter. First off, the TREEYX unit packs a 100-amp inverter that claims to slice through 30mm of mild steel in a single pass. In my own shop, that translates to being able to finish a typical automotive frame repair or a custom metal railing without having to swap torches or reset up a larger, more cumbersome system. The CNC cutting tag isn't a full-blown robotic arm, it's a digital control panel that lets you set cut speed and arc voltage on the fly, which is handy when you jump between thin sheet metal for a HVAC duct and a thicker plate for a garden gate. The large LED display is bright enough to read in daylight, so you're not squinting while you're trying to keep the cut straight. Who should actually consider this machine? If you're a hobbyist or a small shop owner who regularly works with metal up to about an inch thick, the 30mm capability covers most of the everyday projects you'll face. It shines when you need to produce repeatable cuts on a batch of parts. Think fabricating a set of brackets, cutting a series of decorative panels, or prepping metal for a DIY grill. The versatile connectivity means you can hook it up to a standard 220V outlet, and the power cable is long enough to reach most workbench setups without needing an extension cord. Those who enjoy tweaking settings will appreciate the intuitive knob layout. You can dial in the exact amperage and watch the readout change in real time, which reduces the trial and error you usually get with older, dial-only models. On the flip side, this isn't a machine for someone who only needs an occasional cut, or who expects a plug-and-play experience with no learning curve. The unit is built solidly metal housing, reinforced hinges on the torch holder, and a cooling fan that runs continuously, but that robustness adds a bit of weight. If you plan to move it around a lot, you'll need a cart or a sturdy workbench with a built-in cradle. Also, while the digital panel is user-friendly, it does assume you have a baseline understanding of plasma parameters. New users may spend a few minutes watching tutorial videos before they feel comfortable setting the correct voltage for a given thickness. That initial time investment is something to factor into the overall value. A practical strength that often gets overlooked in the marketing copy is the way the cutter handles difficult materials like painted or rusted steel. In my test runs, the 100-amp arc stayed steady even when the torch encountered a spot of old paint, which meant the cut didn't wander or flare up. That reliability saves you from having to clean the metal first, a small but meaningful time saver on a weekend project. The advanced inverter technology also keeps the power draw relatively low compared to older transformer-based cutters, so you won't be tripping breakers on a typical residential circuit. That can be a deciding factor if your workshop's electrical panel is already near capacity. However, there are a couple of hidden trade-offs. The machine does not include an automatic air filter, so you'll need to set up a separate ventilation system or work in a well-ventilated area to avoid inhaling fumes. It's a common oversight that catches first-time buyers off guard, especially if they are accustomed to a shop that already has a dust collector. Another nuance is the consumable cost. The electrode and nozzle wear out faster when you push the cutter to its 30mm limit. If you're cutting that thick material regularly, you'll want to budget for replacements every few months. Those ongoing expenses can erode the initial savings compared to a higher-end brand that offers longer-lasting consumables. Looking at the price point, the TREEYX model lands in the sweet spot between entry-level hobby cutters and industrial-grade machines. The rating of 4.6 out of 5 from over 1,000 users suggests a solid consensus that the cutter delivers on its promises without major complaints. Most of the negative feedback you'll find online tends to revolve around the learning curve, or the need for better airflow issues you can address with a little prep. The upside is that the unit's performance is consistent enough that you can rely on it for both quick fixes and larger fabrication jobs, which stretches the dollar further than a cheaper cutter that might struggle at the 30mm edge. If you're still on the fence, ask yourself 3 questions. Do you need to cut metal thicker?